Hello, good evening, and welcome to PM Express with the best political team. My name is Stephen Anti. It's 8 days to the 2012 general elections, presidential elections, and parliamentary elections. And already, all the major political parties, NDC, MPP, PPP, CPP, and the rest are hustling and jostling for your vote. Today, news broke of an alleged secret tape involving Dr. Arthur Kennedy, who was Nana Akufo-Addo's communications director for the 2008 campaign, alleging to have made comments to suggest that he's not hopeful of his party's chances in the general elections. Arthur Kennedy has denied that there were any secrecy behind the recordings, and the issues are making rounds. Tonight we will discuss it. We'll talk to Arthur Kennedy, and then we'll weigh Nana Addo's chances in this election against what Arthur Kennedy's position is. Also, election materials are moving around the country. In the northern region, election materials, ballot papers have started moving, and the police is in custody of 233 bags containing ballot papers. We'll go there to our correspondent who will give us a situation report on what's happening on the ground, and then we'll speak to the police also to get us a fair understanding of how the ballot papers will be protected from now to elections day. There is also the issue of GIPC, the GIPC saga. Tonight on PM Express, the best political team will weigh how that has an effect on campaign finances. We'll be speaking to anti-corruption expert Vitus Azim on phone. Welcome to our discussion. I'll go straight on to the phone lines to speak to Dr. Arthur Kennedy. Good evening, sir, and thanks for joining us on PM Express.
How are you doing?
I am fine, fantastic. Now, the tape which we heard this morning suggested that you were not so confident about the chances of your party's flag bearer, Nana Akufo-Addo. Is that what it appears to be?
I don't know which tape you listen to, and let me begin with some displeasure at the media. I think that, given your training and experience, when somebody says something like that, the first thing you do is listen to the tape and then find out the context in which the tape was produced. I actually never talked about not being confident about the chances of my candidate. And the tape was really not secret. It is actually one of these serial, quote-unquote, explosive secret tapes that has become the modus operandi of the John Mahama campaign. And it is disgusting, it's disgraceful that such a fine man will lend his name, or at least his blessing, to such behavior by those who seem to be trying to get him elected.
But Dr. Arthur Kennedy, we have no evidence. We have no evidence to suggest that the president is involved in this. Yeah.
Please, let's stop deceiving the people of Ghana. This is a John Mahama campaign thing. You can see all the newspapers lined up. They had the same headline. Whoever says that there is no evidence that is done by the John Mahama campaign must be living in La La Land. Of course it is. It's the same thing they did to Otabil. And they claim that they knew nothing about it. And it's disgusting, and we shouldn't pretend that we believe the lies that they knew nothing about it. And I am somebody who likes the president, and I'm very tempered in my language. And I'm very angry and disappointed that he will lend his name to something like this. So don't stop trying to deceive people that we have no evidence. Of course we do.
Right. So, I mean, moving on, you've said that this was an internal discussion at the regional executive level a year ago to strategize for 2012. Tell us a little more about that meeting on that day.
Well, I never actually said it's an internal discussion. What it was I remember after the 2008 election, the MPP said that they were going to approach 2012 with the 3 R's, which is reflect, what do they call it, reflect, regroup, and then recapture. The first one was reflect. So under the reflecting, the NPP Youth Wing in Central Region held a meeting that was attended by delegates from all over the region as well as media. And I was one of the featured speakers. So my team was reflecting on the lessons I had learned from the 2008 election. And of course, I had shared some of those same material in my book, Chasing the Elephant into the Bush. So I said that we needed to tell ourselves certain truths, that we lost 2008 because of complacency, because people were too interested in money, and because sometimes we were not candid with ourselves. Then I went on to suggest ways through which we could, in effect, correct some of those defects and then adjust to the realities of what I expected to be 2012. A few days later, actually, a lot of media came out of reports quoting parts of my speech. And I think that the regional executive were so pleased with the reports and the crowd reaction that they actually put Daily Guide's report in the central regional office, and it is there even to this day. So the idea that this was a secret meeting and I was saying something in secret that somebody taped, it's not correct.
Right. So, I mean, if we compare your book, Chasing the Elephant into the Bush, and the fact that you cited complacency as the bane of the NPP's downfall, would you say same for 2012? Are your party still complacent?
Well, I mean, I am not in a position to, of course, see everything that is happening in the campaign. I think that there are some places and some people who are working. There are other places where we could do better. I think, though, that the thing that I believe, there are two things that makes this year different from 4 years ago, or maybe 3. The first one is that the candidate was picked 2 years ahead of the election compared to 1 year in 2008. And of course, in addition to having more time, he was, of course, building on the work that he had done in 2008. So there has been more time to do certain things. The second thing is that from being the incumbents, we are now the challengers. And being the challenger has blessings as well as curses. And one of the blessings is that we now do not have a record to defend. If we take it that the incumbent is the one whose record is normally under scrutiny. And then, of course, the last thing is that then based on this, we can look at all the promises that they made. And they've given us a very rich target to look at. But of course, the downside is that then, since we are not the incumbents, we don't have as much resources as they do.
You also made reference to the pattern that hardly do incumbent governments lose power, especially with oil. I mean, exactly what did you mean then? And if you look at the situation currently, does it make you feel that the NPP's chances going into the elections are weaker?
Actually never said that that happens, because I said that first, in Ghana's experience in the Fourth Republic, no incumbent going for re-election had lost. I also, of course, you know, the tape is a little bit cut and spliced together, so a few of the caveats were removed. I felt that since we started this republic, no incumbent had lost, and the only incumbents had been Mr. Rawlings and Mr. Kufuor. Of course, there is also the caveat that every incumbent going for re-election had gotten a smaller percentage of the votes than he got the first time. So if your margin of victory is less than 1% and you are going to lose votes, I don't know where that will take you. So all those are factors. I also did say that we have found oil. So the first government to go into a re-election with oil resources available conceivably might be able to do a little more than previous governments had been able to do. And I still stand by that. Of course, the reality is that maybe the NDC had not been able to do as much as we had hoped for, and corruption has become an issue, as former President Rawlings has highlighted. repeatedly. So those are disadvantages for them.
Right. So realistically, tell me, how do you weigh the chances of your candidate to somebody like John Mahama, really?
I think that he has a good chance. First, he's been running for president a little longer. So from that point of view, people might be more familiar with the idea of him being president than with Mr. Mahama being president. Of course, the president is now a quasi-incumbent because of the fact that he's now president, but people really didn't vote for him. So all those are factors. And I think that given those factors, they are reflected in the polls that show that this election is too close to call. So I am thinking that in the last 10 days, if we really redouble our efforts and finish hard, make no mistakes, and we make sure that on election day, every person who can vote for us votes and every vote is counted, then we might be able to come out with a narrow victory.
When you say make no mistakes, what kinds of mistakes are you anticipating that the MPP could make that will lead to it losing?
I do not anticipate mistakes, but mistakes are a reality of life, that people can make mistakes because they are human beings. Somebody who is a candidate or a key party member goes to say something that they shouldn't say. A tape, secret tape comes out, unfortunately, or for them. Unfortunately for us, this one wasn't really a secret tape. It was a manufactured secret tape, but a secret tape comes up. And that can also happen on the other side as well. Or like it happened in the U.S., there's a natural disaster that for some reason reshapes the landscape a little bit. So there are always unforeseen things that can happen in the last final days of an election. In the U.S., they call that an October surprise.
Right, and so now I need to ask you. You did mention earlier in that tape of the fact that if you wake up and you're told that a particular candidate won the Central Region and won Greater Accra, they will go ahead to win the presidency. What's the strength of the MPP currently in the Central Region, and you think that they have a chance? The party has a chance?
They do. I think Central Region, or we do. Central Region is actually too close to call now, and that is, I have seen confidential polling from both parties as well as from independents, and both of those, all those polling put the Central Region too close to call. The MPP affiliated polls put us slightly ahead. The NDC affiliated polls put them slightly ahead. And when I put all that together, I think that at the end of the day, everybody is guessing a little bit, and we are all praying and hoping for the best.
So what work are you, the party executives and in the Central Region in general, putting in place to ensure that the win is beyond doubt?
That the what?
What measures are the executives in the Central Region putting in place to ensure that a win is a must in the Central Region?
Well, I mean, they will be in a better position to answer that. As far as I'm concerned, I have been going out whenever I get invitations to speak to groups. I've been offering advice on the quiet to executives. I've been strategizing with them to make sure that on election day, all our votes are counted and all those who can indeed vote do vote. And as you are speaking to me, I've been on the media making the case. I write quite frequently to try and frame the issues. And I'm sure that everybody is doing their best, and we hope that God willing, success will crown our efforts.
So I infer from that you have not, for this year, been actively engaged in the campaign directly.
Well, I don't know what you mean by actively. Obviously, the last time I was communications director, so I was much more involved on a day-to-day basis. Now, I am not as involved as I was that time, and part of it is that I live in Cape Coast and a lot of things happen in Accra. But I have been involved in the Central Region. I've been involved in the Western Region. I go to Accra. I've been to Ashanti Region. So, and as you can attest to, I write quite often. So I am not as involved as I was 4 years ago, but my commitment is no less than it was.
Right. Dr. Arthur Kennedy, we're trying to get Ben Efson on the line to do some analysis in this regard. But before we wrap you off, tell me confidently, how do you see the elections panning out? Can you say emphatically that you're confident Nana Addo is going to come out tops?
I cannot say emphatically. I think that he is ahead, and I'm hoping that he will finish first. I think that if the next 10 days go very well, he probably might just barely crest 50%. Otherwise, he might finish first but fail to make 50%. But if anybody says, can you say emphatically, I can't, and nobody can. Whoever says they can is lying to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arthur Kennedy, for that chat there. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to PM Express. Like I said earlier, election materials are moving or have moved to the northern region, where the police has received 233 bags of ballot papers to be used for the elections next 8 days. Now we're getting on the phone line now to speak to our regional correspondent, Mohammed Hashmin, who has some update to give us there. Good evening, Mohammed Hashmin, and thanks for joining us on PM Express.
Good evening, and thank you very much, Steve.
Right, so you are in Tamale right now. Tell us what has been happening in relation to the ballot papers arriving.
Well, the ballot papers arrive in a ballot bags. I spoke to the public relationship officer of the Northern Regional Police Command, ASP Ebenezer Tete. He disclosed this to me exclusively this morning. And then I was told that by ASP Ebenezer Tete that based on the advice of the Northern Regional Director of the Electoral Commission, they decided to dispatch some of the ballot bags containing the ballot booklets, both presidential and parliamentary, to the various constituencies. And they did that simply because they want the ballot bags and then the ballot booklets or the ballot papers to arrive at the various constituencies on time, so that on the election day there will not be this problem of any polling center starting very late, simply because electoral materials have not arrived on time. I was shown to a particular room where 5 constituencies, so they have distributed about 26 out of 31. So far, 26 constituencies have received their materials. Remaining 5. The 5 are that of the Tamale South, Tamale Central, Tamale North, Sanargu, and then the Selga North. This is a new constituency. It was carved out of the Selga constituency. According to ASP Ebenezer Tete, they decided to keep these 5 constituencies simply because they are very closer to Tamale and they can provide the right security for these ballot bags. I was shown the room where these ballot bags have been kept, and then it has been kept under a very tight security with a lot of protection to those materials, simply because, according to him, they just want to provide the right security so that none of the political parties can raise issues about it or no one can compromise with it.
Right, so let's talk a little bit about the security arrangement. You did mention that the ballot books will be going to several. How many constituencies in Tamale, apart from the 5 you mentioned?
26
right,
constituencies have so far received their materials.
So the security arrangement for these 26, were you able to get any information from ASP Ebenezer Tete to that effect?
Well, earlier on when I spoke to him, the information I had from him was that they are going to provide a 24-hour security to this material till the election day. But they are also reminded of the fact that there are other security challenges that they will also be dealing with on the election day.
Right. So overall, what's the situation on the ground in terms of people's anxiety levels and expectations 8 days ahead of the election?
Well, if you are going to make a comparison between last year's election and then this year's election, you will have realized that all the major stakeholders, talk of the security, the political parties, and then the residents themselves have all comported themselves very well. Just yesterday, the New Patriotic Party had their regional rally. It was a very peaceful regional rally. They sold their messages to the people of the North, and then they have been decoding those messages. And then you realize that the tension is not very high as compared to previous years in northern region where elections are characterized with a lot of violence. Generally, all the political parties are going on with their campaign very peaceful. I must say that I like the kind of integration or the kind of collaboration that is going on between all the two political parties.
Right. Thank you very much, Mohammed Hashmin, our Northern Regional Correspondent, giving us an update of the arrival of ballot books in the Northern Region. 233, you heard him say, and they are to be distributed to 26 constituencies in the Northern Region. On the line again, we have ASP Ebenezer Tete, who is the Public Relations Officer of the Northern Regional Police Command. Good evening, sir, and thanks for your time.
Good evening, Steve.
It's been a while, sir.
Yes.
Right. So how is the situation on the ground with regards to the arrival of these ballot papers? I'm specifically concerned about security arrangements in place, one, to protect these ballot boxes, and two, to ensure that they arrive at their destination safely.
Yes, the security arrangements have been so far so good. Yesterday, the ballot papers arrived in the region under tight security, and they have been 26 constituencies have already been dispatched. This is to make it possible for the electoral materials to be distributed to the various polling stations on time so that people can exercise their franchise. But 5 constituencies, Tamale Central, Tamale North, Tamale South, Sane Rugu, and Salaga North are presently at the regional police headquarters, and we are providing adequate security to ensure that the sanctity of the ballot papers, both presidential and parliamentary, is not compromised. Those ones that have already been sent to the various districts will also be given the same tight security, and will ensure that nobody gets access to the ballot papers before the elections. It will only be given to the Electoral Commission, and the police officers who will be manning the various polling stations will also escort the electoral officers to the various polling stations,
right,
for voting to take place.
Right. ASP, you mentioned tight security. Exactly what's the detail of this tight security? How many men and what kind of reinforcements are in place for this security you call tight?
For instance, the one at the regional headquarters, we are providing armed security, 24-hour security at the location where the ballot papers are being kept. So our men are stationed there 24 hours. Those ones that have already been sent to the various districts, the same security arrangements will be made, and they will ensure that they are adequately protected, because we don't want the ballot papers to be compromised. So that's exactly what we are doing. We will ensure that they are manned 24 hours, and that is exactly what we are doing.
Right. So were you the first point of call, or the regional EC was the first point of call?
I don't understand the question.
Right. So let me put it this way. When the ballot papers arrived in Tamale, were you the first recipient? Did you take delivery and hand it over to Electoral Commission, or the Electoral Commission took delivery and you only provided auxiliary services, which is security?
The Electoral Commission took delivery, and we provided the security. Because the police is also player in a sense that we assist the Electoral Commission to have a free and fair election and incident-free election. wherever the ballot papers are sent, the first place to be sent to is the regional police headquarters, and the police will provide adequate security for it to be offloaded, after which it is also our responsibility to ensure that wherever the papers will be kept, we provide adequate security. Also, as I've already indicated, those ones that we have sent, the 26 constituencies, were also given police escorts, armed police escorts. So the Electoral Commission took delivery. We provided security. We continue to provide security for the ballot papers before, during the election, and even during the counting process. It is also our responsibility to provide tight security at the collation centers to ensure that nobody compromise, the sanctity of the process.
Right. I know the Northern Region has a number of flash spots, like Yendi, for example, which requires additional security. Tell me what the preparedness of the regional police is towards the overall conduct of the elections in 8 days.
Yes, as you indicated, the Northern Region is one of the political hotbeds, and as usual, we have flashpoints, and Yendi is one of the flashpoints, and several other constituencies, especially the Tamale constituencies. The flashpoints have already been identified. We have done our threat analysis, and we have identified flashpoints out of the close to 3,000 polling stations that we have. We have identified more than 600 flashpoints. And on the election day, what we are going to do is that we are going to zone the various flashpoints, and we'll have a dedicated patrol teams who will be patrolling the various flashpoints. In addition to that, we have security officers who have been trained in crowd control management. They will be a standby force. Their duty is to respond to distress calls, and when they are called, they will be sent quickly to the places where we have the troubles, and their duty is to help bring the situation under control. Also, we'll be having patrol teams also patrolling the highways. We'll be having motor riders who will also be doing same, and their duty is to prevent anybody who attempts to snatch any ballot box. Strict instructions have been given to them to lawfully and legitimately stop anybody who attempts to snatch any ballot box, and that they are going to do without any fear of favor, ill affection, or any fear or favor. So that is what I have to say about our preparedness. Logistically, we are also prepared by way of training. We have been trained and retrained, and the morale of the officers in the region are quite high. We'll be receiving additional men from Accra exactly on the 4th after the special voting. We have been told that we'll be receiving men to beef up our numbers, and we will ensure that the flashpoints have additional police officers or security officers. So, for instance, if the non-flashpoints will be having one security officer, the flashpoints will be having two, in addition to the arrangements that we have made for patrols and the other the contingency measures that we are putting in place. We are also going to ensure that at the regional and district coalition centers, we have enough security on the ground during the counting process.
Thank you very much. ASP Ebenezer Thete is a public relations officer for the Northern Regional Police Command. I'm told that we have on the line Madam Angela Dramina, who is a member of our political team as we go into these elections. Good evening, ma'am, and thanks for your time.
Good evening. Your voice is very low.
If you can hear me, good evening, madam.
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very perfectly. Thank you very much. Now, you've listened to Arthur Kennedy, Dr. Arthur Kennedy, his comments over the alleged secret tape. He has denied that there was any secret meeting, really, and he's made some observations. And then also there is reports that ballot papers, ballot books have been moved to the Northern region ahead of the elections 8 days away. I mean, when you follow these trends, what are your observations?
Well, I'm sorry I've not listened to Dr. Arthur Kennedy on the comments he made. But I think it's important for all of us to understand that we need to give a certain amount of respect and confidence concerning the electoral processes where the Electoral Commission is concerned, and also our security agencies. At a certain level, we just have to trust them to a certain extent so that we can keep the peace, for one, and also ensure that they're doing the right thing. So I think on our part, I think it's about being very vigilant, but also being able to say, look, we have entrusted a certain work into the hands of the Electoral Commissioner and also to the security agencies, and we have just got to trust them to do it.
And so, I mean, when I spoke to the ASP, Ebenezer Tete from the Northern Regional Police Command, he did mention that security is very tight as a result of the fact that there are various flashpoints in the Northern region. Do you think that these kinds of security, extra security arrangements are not rather intimidatory to the electorates?
Well, you see, I'm not sure that it's intimidatory. I think it's important to really police the country around this time, especially where our flashpoints are concerned. So we can't have enough security, in actual fact, But I think what's actually required is the manner in which it is done. And I know that the police is trained to handle crowds, to also do the kind of community policing in which you are there, but you are there in such a way that you are not heavily noticed. So it all depends on how the police would also go about doing their work. They don't have to be heavy-handed, even though they are among the rest of the citizenry. So we must just trust them that when it comes to the flashpoints, they've been able to send enough police officers across those flashpoints, and they have all the kind of equipment that they need, especially the communication equipment and so on. But I think while they're doing this also, it will be very nice for some of the police officers to just mix with the citizenry and do some of the education. Yes, that is for the NCC, and it is also for the Electoral Commission to some extent. But the police are able to communicate with people in terms of how you can detect crimes, or even if somebody is about to do something and what they must do. I'm not sure that the NCC and Electoral Commission will be able to cover all of that when it comes to the education. So particularly with the flashpoints, I think it's important for the police officers not to be only present, but also to mingle, in such a way that people have confidence in telling them when there's something wrong or they suspect that somebody is making some movements that do not seem quite correct.
Thank you very much, Madam Angela Dramana Boakye, and my name is Stephen Anti, and Madam Boakye is part of our political team, which will be deliberating and discussing various political issues as we go into the elections. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we will discuss the GIPC saga and then look into how that is affecting campaign finances, and we'll play you a short video when we return from the break. Stay with us.
The former GIPC boss resigned after over a 4,000 Ghana cedi check made out to a group calling itself Volunteers for Mahama. A statement signed by the board chairman indicated that former chief executive of the GIPC, George Abuaji, tendered in his resignation as a matter of principle, although no funds were lost.
Now, I don't understand. What does it mean by although no funds were lost? If the man has resigned as a matter of principle, then he has resigned as a matter of principle. Stop it there, right there, period. And if the chairman says that it's a matter of principle, he's resigned, I accept that. But to say that although no funds were lost, to me, it's qualifying the action. And I don't agree. I don't accept that.
He, however, offered a suggestion.
I am saying that the board chairman should withdraw that letter and say that the man has resigned on point of principle. Full stop.
The murky situation at the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, GIPC, is set to grow muddier as questions about the exact amount doled out for the board chairman's birthday party and the exact balance returned has been called into question.
Well, that was a short report by Walalum Johnson about the current situation with the GIPC, where a group affiliated with the John Mahama campaign is alleged to have received 4,000 Ghana cedis. The question we're asking tonight is, in the face of all of these, should we as a country be streamlining the funding of political campaigns ahead of any major elections in order to ensure that some of these things do not happen? We're joined on the line now by Vitus Azim from the Ghana Integrity Initiative to, well, we don't have Vitus Azim, but we have Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, who is joining us on the line we're still trying to raise these gentlemen on the phone so that we can have a decent discussion on some of these issues that have been raised by that have been put in the public domain. The question is, in other jurisdictions, there are rules and regulations and laws guarding political party funding. In Ghana, political parties are supposed to comply with a request to submit their funding statements to the Electoral Commission before their membership is approved, and where they are found in violation of that, their licenses could be taken away from them. Now, I read sections of the rules and regulations regarding what the law says here in Ghana. Section 21, returns and accounts of political parties, reads that a political party shall, within 6 months from 31st December of each year, file with the Commission a return in the form specified by the Electoral Commission, indicating 1, the state of its accounts, 2, the sources of its funds, membership dues that are paid, contributions or donations in cash or in kind, the properties of the party and time of acquisition, such other particulars as the Commission may reasonably require. The B section says audited accounts of the party for the year. Now, any person, the rule says, any person may, on payment of a fee determined by the Commission, inspect or obtain copies of the returns and audited accounts of a political party filed with the Commission under this section. Notwithstanding the provisions of this section, the Commission may, at any time upon reasonable grounds, order the accounts of a political party to be audited by an auditor appointed by the Commission, whose fees and expenses shall be paid by the Commission. So these are just portions of the regulations on a political party funding. But the issue is, do these laws work, and are they applicable? We have a report on a previous campaign funding which we'd like to play for you. Stay with us.
Are raised and spent in order to promote candidates, parties or policies in some sort of electoral contest are referred to as campaign finances. Political science literature indicates that most contributors give to support parties or candidates with whom they are already in agreement. There's also a wide public perception that donors expect illegitimate government favors in return, such as specific legislation being enacted or defeated, or the award of large contracts. Some have even come to equate campaign finance with political corruption and bribery. These views have led some governments to reform fundraising sources and techniques in the hope of eliminating perceived undue influence being given to moneyed interests. Some countries that rely on private donations to fund campaigns require extensive disclosure of donations, frequently including information such as the name, employer, and address of donors. In Ghana, the various political parties are supposed to file their financial returns with the Electoral Commission at the beginning and end of each year. Failure to comply with this directive from the Political Parties Act could lead to the dissolution of the offending party. But Are Ghanaians really concerned with who funds which party?
Well, we still have on the line Madam Angela Dramina Abuaji to talk us through some of the legal issues that are captured in this law. Thanks very much, Ma'am, for still staying on the line.
Thank you.
Now, the controversy involving the funding, the payment of 4,000 Ghana cedis to a group which is aligned to the ruling government raises several issues of political party funding. From your perspective, would you say the law requiring that political parties file their returns and, you know, sources of funding, etc., is working effectively?
Well, obviously it's not. And it's a shame that at this time in our democratic development, we still have to pretend that that law doesn't exist. Basically, that's what we are doing. You know, we try to enforce all the other little rules concerning elections, filing, you know, and all of those things. But that's one that actually also helps Ghanaians to see the kind of integrity that each of our parties has on issues around finances and so on. We seem to either ignore or pretend it's not there. So obviously it is not working. But I think that going forward, it is very, very important for the Electoral Commission to ensure that parties do file their returns, that also the bill concerning financing of political parties is something that must be seriously considered by the Parliament of Ghana, I hope, in the next 4 years.
Now, the critical question anybody would like to ask is that, doesn't the Electoral Commission have too much on its plate to also be chaperoning or monitoring how much funds political parties receive? Is this not too much?
No, not at all, because that's why we have it as a commission, and that is why it is also funded by the state, you know, as it were, from the consolidated fund and its own internally generated resources. So usually you would have senior desk officers who handle aspects of your mandate. You know, basically that is it. If they have people who are handling those aspects of your mandate, of their mandate, and who would sanction parties for not complying with those parts of the provision, then we have something good going. Because after all, you know, if you look at other countries, let me just cite it. In Latin America, it's not only just party financing, but if you are a party and you don't put forward a certain percentage of women as your parliamentarians and so on, you will be sanctioned. You will not even be allowed to register, or you will be deregistered. How much more when it comes to issues around money, which is so fundamental to integrity and so on. So it's about how we handle that aspect of our mandate. I think too much of it is shrouded in secrecy when it comes to where parties get the sources of their funding and so on. And I think also that across party lines, it's a huge arena for corruption involving citizens and, you know, external sources and so on and so forth.
So, Madam, quickly, do you think that the Electoral Commission has teeth to bite and enforce sanctions that are spelled out in this law?
Well, look at what it did with filing. If it can do that with a CI, how much more a parent law? You know, so yes, I think the Electoral Commission has teeth, and if they decided that, you know, if you haven't filed your returns, if you haven't shown us where you're getting your sources from and so on, you will not be allowed to contest. The way our parties are so serious about, you know, contesting and so on, I don't think they will take it lightly. I just think that we're doing something that may be typically African in terms of our African countries, in pretending there is nothing wrong. You know, it's okay. We just can't manage this kind of thing, but it can be managed. I believe that seriously.
Thank you very much, Madam Angela Dramina Abuaji. We also have on the line Vitus Ajim joining us to give us. Well, I beg your pardon. We don't have Vitus Azima, and we would have to wrap up the show. My name is Stephen Enti, and we spoke to a lot of people online. We spoke to Dr. Kennedy Arthur. Madam Angela Jomina Boaji also joined us, and we spoke to our correspondents to give us an update of the situation on the ground in the northern region with the arrival of the ballot papers. And we spoke to a security person, the ASP, Vanessa Tete, who is a PRO for the Northern Regional Police Command, to give us assurances of tight security ahead of the elections. Thanks for joining us on PM Express with the best political team. Good night.